Characterize project provides an opportunity for us to use panels as well as radio buttons, numericUpDown controls, checkboxes, and TrackBars. In this project, we'll have an application with a large label. That would be a title screen, and we have text in that label. We can click on the label and change the text, and then also ask if we'd like to change any of the settings. And if we choose yes, then a hidden panel comes up that displays the controls to modify the settings. We can change the font face, the font size, the font attributes, the alignment of the text in the label, and then finally both the text and the back colors. This is a little more challenging project, and so while you're welcome to try this on your own, don't be discouraged if you have to simply follow along with the code review that follows. Please assume we don't have the standard font dialog or the standard color dialog. We can't use those in this project. I want you to get experience creating your own settings and controls for modifying the fonts and colors. First step will be to create the GUI. Here is the storyboard that I provide. And then I give you a checklist, what I usually refer to as a punch list of things to be done in terms of coding the project. This is a little more difficult project, and it sort of goes that adage of how do you eat an elephant? You do it one bite at a time. How do you code a more difficult project? You code it one feature at a time. I provide some tips along with some snippets of my code that I used. Here's code for changing the font style using some ternary expressions. And then also I provide some code at the bottom in terms of changing colors. I'll scroll down to that in a minute. Once you've coded, you're going to test and debug, and then you're going to submit this with your weekly reflection. Here's my code on switching the color schemes between the text color and the back color, as well as changing the colors of those two values, either for color or back color, based on which is selected. So what follows here will be my code review. Here's the storyboard for creating the user interface in this project. I used a form that was 800 by 600, made a label that basically covered the entire form called LBL display, and set its back color to white, and the font was Sago UI 24 regular, which I will use as the default settings in our panel. I aligned the text to the middle center. Then there's a panel called P&L settings that contains all of the controls for doing the setting. Be sure to set the visibility of this to false. We're going to start the application with this panel being hidden. But it contains 5 radio buttons for our different font faces. I used Arial, Courier New, Papyrus, Sago UI, and Times New Roman. If you want to use something else, feel free to do that. Then for the font size, I used a numericUpDown, and I set its value to 24. And I believe I set the range from 10 point to 125 point. 125 point is huge. Really only work in this case if you had a couple letters, although the text will wrap. And then I have some checkboxes for bold, italic, strikeout, and underline. And then more radio buttons, and these are inside a panel. I forgot to mention that on the storyboard here. These are inside a panel so that they are mutually exclusive to one another. I named these RB top left, top center, top right, and so forth, corresponding to different text alignment options for our label. And I made the middle center one, set the checked value to true on that. I have a close button called BTN close that will close the panel. And then another embedded panel for the colors, in which we have 3 sliders, track R, track G, and track B for red, green, and blue. They each have a value going from 0 to 255, and I set the vertical value at 0. So we're going to start with the text color. There's 2 radio buttons at the top, one RB text color and RB back color. And the RB text color is also set to, the checked is set to true. So here's 2 more exclusive radio buttons because they're inside this panel called P&L color. Then below the track bars, we have 3 text boxes, and I set these to read only. You could use labels if you prefer. But TXTB, TXTG, and TXTR. I use text boxes. Originally, I was going to be able to allow the user to enter text into these. And then I decided, no, I'm just going to force them to use the sliders. So that's the interface. Let's take a look at the code. I start with 3 variables. Text RGB is a color equals color.black, and back RGB is color equals color.white. That's going to be the black and white for the fore color and the back color of my label. And then I'm going to set color as Boolean equals true. Now I'm going to use that basically as a flag to determine whether or not I should set the track values when switching between the text color and the back color. For my label, handling the click event, lbldisplay.click, we're going to create a string variable called new text. It's going to equal an input box of LBL display text, and then the change displayed text is my title, and LBL display text again as the default value. So then you can just simply click cancel and keep the same text. If new text does not equal null, we're going to set LBL display.text to the new text. Then I'm going to create a message box whose value is going to go into a dialog result variable called dr, and we're going to ask, do you want to change the font colors or font settings or colors? Title show settings, message box yes no, doing an icon, and then making the no the default. If they click yes, then P&L settings.visible, that's our panel, will be set to true, and we'll show that panel. Remember, we're starting with that panel with the visibility set to false. So a couple ways we could do the text alignment. We could use a select case and just simply determine what button was chosen and set the alignment for the label that way. Here's an example of where I used ternary statements to do that. I started with a string variable called alignment, and it's going to equal center.name.substring2. So we're going to start with character index 2. That eliminates the RB of the name. So we're just left with is it top left, top center, and so forth. And then I would set that to lower. And then here's my 9 ternary statements. LBL display.textAlign equals, if the alignment equals top left, then we're going to set content alignment to top left. Now content alignment here is an enum. So all those 9 different options, top left, middle right, bottom right, those are enum values for content alignment. However, if it's not that, we'll keep LBL display.textAlign the same. And I simply go through all 9 of those. Now here's a better way I think to do this, and that is, since we've got the alignment string, let's dim align as content alignment equals enum.parse, and then get type, our enum is content alignment, and then comma is alignment. That's going to pull the content alignment value, and we can then assign that to LBL display.textAlign. And this would work if we had 100 different alignment possibilities. Obviously we don't, but it doesn't matter how many possibilities there are in the enum, that will work for all of them. I have a method called change font that's handling the click of all the radio button font face names. And again here I'm going to take font faces string equals center.text. We're looking at just the text of the font, not the name of the font. So LBL display.font equals, and we use a new font and set to font face. I'm going to keep the size the same, so LBL display.font.size, and keep the style the same, LBL display.font.style. In changing the style, those 4 different checkboxes, we're going to set a new font, LBL display.font equals new font, LBL display.font.name, same font size, and we're going to set the font style to regular. Then I'm going to look at each of those 4 checkboxes, and we're going to change the font to a new font, keeping the font face the same, the size the same, but then for the style, LBL display.font.style or fontstyle.bold, remember that bitwise or will set the flag to make it bold. And I do the same thing for italic, the same thing for strikeout, and the same thing for underline. This allows me to combine those, so we can do both bold and italic, or bold, strikeout, and underline. And of course with the checkboxes we can choose more than one, so we make sure we're handling all of those together. For the font size, we have numericUpDown font size. .value change is the event, and here we're simply setting LBL display.font equals new font. I'm going to keep the same font face, so LBL display.font.name. I'm going to change the size to NUD font size.value, and LBL display.font style stays the same. All we're changing there is the size. Our close button simply sets the visibility of P&L settings to false. Now here comes the tricky part, and that is changing the colors. So we have those two radio buttons up at the top, RB back color and RB text color. I'm handing the click event for each one of those. And so I have a method here, or an event handler called switch color scheme. And I'm going to set color equal to false. Remember, that is our Boolean class level variable. So I'm setting it to false, which will keep the colors from changing as I alter the track values. So we're going to set track R, track G, and track B values. If RB text color.checked is true, we'll set those values to the .R, .G, and .B levels of TXT RGB. Else, if RB back color.checked, we'll set the track colors, the track values, to the back RGB.R, .G, and .B. And then we're simply going to set TXTR, TXTG, and TXTB to the values of those track bars. Now I'm going to set color back to true. This will allow us to work with the sliders and make changes. Those three sliders then, track R, track G, and track B, I'm working with the value changed event. And so here, if set color equals false, then we're going to exit the sub. We're not going to make any modifications. So that would only happen as we're making modifications in switching from the text to the back color radio buttons. I'm going to dim new color as a color.fromARGB, and we'll take the track R value, the track G value, and the track B value, our red, green, blue values. And then I have another variable called hex string. I didn't set that as string. I should have. I can get away sometimes with not typing my variables, but it's a bad practice. So dim hex string as string. And I also should have said dim new color as color. So dim hex string as string equals, I'm going to take an interpolated string with an ampersand, which usually precedes a hexadecimal value. I'm going to take track R.value to string, and here my formatting is x2. That gives me a hexadecimal with two digits. So from 00 to FF. Do the same thing for the track G value and the track B value, converting those to hexadecimal. If RB text color.checked is true, then LBL display.forColor equals new color. LBL text hex.text equals hex string, and our text RGB equals the new color. Otherwise, else, we're setting the back color. And so I'll set LBL display.backColor to our new color, LBL back hex.text to the new string, and the back RGB to that new color. And then finally, I want to show those slider decimal values. So txtr.text equals new color.r, converted to a string. Make sure we put our parentheses here. Again, VB is relatively forgiving, but that's not true in other languages. So let's get in the habit of putting those parentheses there, even though they're empty. txtg, that's our green color.text, equals new color.g.toString. And then txtb.text is going to equal new color.b.toString. Let me run the project. So I click to change the text. I'll enter Visual Basic. Going to click OK. So it changes the text of the label. Then I get the message box asking if I want to change the settings. I'm going to say yes. Pops up that panel. We can change the font face. I'm going to choose Papyrus. Let's make this bigger. I can also type into this box. Let's make this 56. I'm going to make it bold. I'll do a strikeout. And then for text alignment, I'm going to put it in the upper right. And then as far as changing colors, the text color, I'm going to make it red. Then I'm going to switch over to the back color. And we'll make it kind of a yellowy orange color. And I can close my settings. If I want to go back and change those settings, I can click on the label again. I could change the text if I wanted. If I don't, just say OK. But then I can go back to the settings by clicking yes. Maybe you want to change the text color from red to magenta, or maybe to blue. That's the Characterize It project. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.